Hey friends, I am really looking forward to getting on here, talking to you guys and sharing with you guys about some stuff that's going on in my life and some things that the Lord has been sharing with me. I was actually going to make a video last night about it, and because some things were stirring in me, and I want to be faithful with the journey process, but I felt like the Lord was like, let it percolate a little bit. And so I'm on here tonight. As I was thinking and praying about it last night and this morning, I've been going through, shocking I know, some difficult circumstances, which I'll get into briefly in a moment. But it seems like when you go through difficult circumstances and you're seeking the Lord, that He is so close to people who are going through difficult circumstances. He's so close. And during those times, it seems like, I don't know if it's more of a listening ear or His grace that's abounding, helping you through it. But it's been good. So, just real briefly, in the last 2 weeks, I have had my oldest son move out of the house, which I already have 2 daughters who moved out, but it's a totally different experience when a son moves out, at least for me. Within 12 hours, my second son got his permit, and it's all starting to hit home like, oh my gosh, in 5 years, I'm going to have like 1 child at home. And that is a little startling, And then fast forward to this week, the family home that we had as a family, of course, I haven't lived in there for a couple years now. The kid's dad decided to put it on the market, and it had to sell pretty quick because of some circumstances in his life, and it sold fast within a couple days. And I tell you, he put that on the market, and I don't know if it affects men the same way, but at least I feel like for women, at least for me right now, I had a really hard time with it. He told me he was putting it on the market. I knew he had been getting it ready for a while, but when it came down to it and it was like put on the market, wow, like the emotions that I felt, because we've gone through a divorce, and it was, to me, the divorce felt like more of a relief, even though there was a lot of hard circumstances with dealing with kids stuff and not liking all of these different things in my whole life being turned upside down and very different than it used to be. But emotionally, it felt like a little bit of a relief in a lot of ways. But seeing our family home that we had lived in for so many years affected me in a very different way. And knowing that it was going to be really, it's like the end of a chapter. It's like the final death blow in a lot of ways. He told me he had put it on the market, and I cried myself to sleep several nights in a row. And then even when I was homeschooling the kids, we'd be reading and I'd just be like, it's like starting. And anyways, this past week on Tuesday, I was just being a little emotional about it in the morning. And then I found out that it sold later that day, and I was just dealing with this. I saw one of my friends, and she saw me. She's like, "Oh, how are things going? How are you doing?" And I put a lot of I really like authenticity, and I know you can't share everything with everyone, but I don't like when you're having a rough time. I don't really like to say, oh, things are great, I mean, I don't have to go into stuff, but I'm at least going to say something like, oh, it's a mixed bag, there's good and bad going on, and but this girl I knew a little more, and I'm like, I'm having a rough day. I'm just going to be honest, I'm having a rough day. I don't get super emotional about stuff. I don't cry a whole lot. I cry at every movie, but in life generally, I'm pretty even keel. And but that day, the last several days, I had been crying, and I'm I'm having a bit of a rough day. The kid's dad put the house on the market. I just found out it sold. I was just explaining how it just felt like, you know, because as I was praying about it and everything before, I'm like, God, am I just being materialistic? Because it's all going to burn. Let's keep this in perspective with an eternal perspective, right? But I realized, like, after praying and thinking about it, that it wasn't that. It was more like that home that we had. It was really my dream home. It was in the country. It was a big home, 3 acres, but like all the land around it was just owned by people, just land. The river was down at the bottom. Hardwood floors, tall ceilings, big rooms. It was just such a fun home to be in and entertain and have all the kids' friends over, and it was super great. And you know, like that home represented in a lot of ways just that dream that I had, like as a kid growing up. Like, I want a family and I want to stay home with my kids, and you know, I want my friends and the kids' friends to feel at ease with coming over whenever they want. And it was just, you know, having them being married and all the things that go with that was really represented in this home. And now this home was leaving our family. So like, even though I hadn't lived there, the kids still lived there part of the time. And so I'm like, I'm just having a hard time. And she's like, you know what? So I'm going to share with you a couple things. First, I'm going to share with you a few things that she had said. Hold on. And then some other things that came up after that. So, because I think for people who are going through a grieving process, or maybe things in their life isn't turning out like they had hoped, there's could be so many reasons for it, like whether it's decisions of our own, or maybe people around us, or like freak accidents. Like, there's so many reasons why things in life can turn out not quite like we were hoping. And so she's like, you know, I had a pastor one time, and he would say that there is a little bit of Good Friday and a little bit of Resurrection Sunday in every day. And of course, like, we know, like, it really wasn't Friday and Sunday, because that's not 3 days and 3 nights, but you know what I'm saying. For the sake of the example, little bit of Good Friday, little bit of Resurrection Sunday in each day. And really, it could be in whole seasons of our lives. You know, like, we could be in a season of life where we could be killing it in one area. We're having Resurrection Sunday in one area. We're having Good Friday and seeing some death and some things in some other areas. It could be in a day. It could be in seasons. It could be both. And so, but you know, as she was saying that, between those 3 days, like, all of eternity was shifted. All of eternity changed in those 3 days. The veil that separated, my phone ran out of storage. Anyways, I had to delete an app or something. So, but as I was saying, the veil that separated us from the Holy of Holies was torn in half, and we can now approach the throne room. We are joint heirs with Christ. Things shifted during those 3 days. And it's like, you know, it's also like realizing that there are seasons in our lives. For instance, like right now we're going into the fall season. It's very soon, all the leaves are going to be off the trees, and you're going to look across the landscape and it's going to look dead. Like, and if you didn't have an understanding of the cycles of the earth and the cycles of the seasons, you could look into an area populated with trees and think, man, everything died. But what happens is, you know, it's like, what is a tree doing when all the leaves are off and it's still getting the sun, it's still getting nutrients from the soil, but it doesn't show the prettiness. You know, it doesn't have the leaves. It doesn't have the flowers blooming. What's happening is, in those times, the roots are going deeper. It's getting more solid and more grounded. And just like in our lives, when things are looking hard, when things are hard, and you know, we all like the showy stuff. We all like the pretty stuff. Like, don't we all want to be blooming with flowers and and leaves, fresh leaves and all this stuff. But those times when there's death involved, a dying to whatever, dreams, a dying to yourself, a dying to whatever, if we are pressing into God and getting that nourishment from the Son, then our roots are going to go deeper. It's just going to make us more solid and more, more Christ-like. And so she was saying some of these things, and I was like, yes, like, I think I need to write some of this down. And, but I was still like in it. Like, I was still pretty emotional about it all. And then it was funny because I got a message from a friend who knew some of the stuff I was going through. And he goes, what you're going through reminds me of a video you made a while back, a video that I had made that I forgot about. He's like, it sounded kind of similar, because he was like, it's like you were going up the driveway, and he was talking. I'm like, oh my gosh, I totally remember this. I was like going up the driveway, and this is earlier on when I had moved out, and I was going to pick up the kids, and I came up, and the kids are all playing outside. Sunset's perfect. Everyone's outside playing, my beautiful home. And I drove up, and I remember thinking, like, being so sad, like, this is what I wanted. Like, this is everything I wanted. Of course, there were aspects I didn't want, but, what it represented. And I remember, like, driving up, and the Lord saying that verse that talks about the glory of the latter house will be greater than the glory of the former house, and feeling so encouraged by that. And my friend reminded me of this, and I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, I've already been through this in a different way. Like, the house wasn't leaving forever at that time, but is the same feelings. And that is what the Lord said then. It's still true today. And it's such a perfect representation, that whole story, because, in that story, there was the first temple that was built, and it was glorious. It was beautiful. It was ornate. Like, it was the temple. It was beautiful. And then, all the stuff happened. They had to build another temple, and it's not ornate. It's not beautiful like the first one. And then the people who were young and remembered the first one, and they're seeing the second one, and they're crying because they're like, this is so not like the first temple. This is so not as nice. This is not the dream of what it was before. But the thing is, where is God now? Where is God now? Is he with the former temple, or is he with the new one? He's with the new one. And God is in the here and now. And we got to be able to be flexible and move on with where God is. Where do we want to be in life? Do we want to be in some past dream, in some past era where God isn't anymore? Or do we want to be where God's working, where God is? And so, thinking about all of this, like praying and thinking about this, it's like it also brought up to my memory the whole thing with the wineskins and the new wine. God is bringing a new wine, not just in my life, not just in maybe people's lives that are going through some stuff, but I believe God right now is doing a new thing in the earth. He's moving, and he's wanting to do some new things. But even more specifically, more personal in my life, and maybe in your life, God is doing a new thing, and we have to be okay. Oh my gosh, I need to get some water. We need to be okay with getting some new wineskins, because we need to have new wineskins to hold the new wine. If we put in this fresh wine that God is pouring out into old containers, they're going to burst, and we're going to waste a bunch of stuff. No one likes to waste good wine. So we got to be okay with change. We got to be okay with where God is. I get talking so passionate, I start coughing. We got to be okay with where God is and be open and excited about being where God is and not dwell on the things of the past. You know, the Bible says, you know, behold, I'm doing a new thing. I'm doing a new thing in the earth. I'm doing a new thing in your life. And being in the here and now where God is and not dwelling on the past and where God isn't anymore. There's grace for today. There's grace for today in our lives where we are. And we got to embrace and love whatever season we're in. It may be hard. It may not be as pretty on the outside as we would like it to be. It may not be the dream of what we thought it would look like. But if we are surrendered to God and we're like in the metron of his grace, Jeff Michelle Bratton, still using that even from 20 years ago. If we're in the center of his will, even if it looks like death, our roots are going deeper and we are becoming more Christ-like. He never promised us an easy way or a way that looks like glitter and gold all the time. So we got to be okay with that and embrace where we are and embrace what God's doing and where he is right now. And so that's it. I'm actually really excited about this message because it's come from a place of me struggling for the last definite week, maybe even a little bit of a couple weeks as things are changing in my life. Like I already felt like the last couple years have been major changes with everything in my life being different. And now even in the last couple weeks, even more changes, you know, where, you know, kids are moving on and things are happening so fast and, you know, chapters are coming to a hard close. But out of that, out of the pain of like, wow, man, I'm sad about that. But out of the pain of being like, yes, that was what was, but God is opening a new season and he's opening a new chapter in my life and in a lot of our lives. So I just wanted to get on here and encourage you that whatever season you're in right now, embrace it. Surrender your heart to God and embrace where you are and what he's doing in your life. And I would love to share or love to hear anything that any of you guys are going through, maybe things that God's showing you about the season of life you're in. If you like this, like and subscribe wherever the button is down here. And I hope to see you soon. Bye.